What do you do if your perfect boat doesn't exist? Well, you bring it into existence, of course. Sietze Koopmans was looking for a craft that combined the traditional charm of a Maine lobster boat with the efficiency, refinement and performance of a modern drive system. And having failed to find what he was looking for in the production market, in 2002, Zeelander was born. And this, the 79-foot Zeelander 8, is the new flagship. And it's quite a machine. There are 4 900 horsepower IPS1200 engines under the deck back there, and you can up them to IPS1350s for a total output of 4,000 horsepower and a top speed of 40 knots. But actually performance isn't Zeelander's raison d'etre, it's refinement. They even quote the decibel level at top speed, 65 decibels, on the website next to the length overall and the fuel capacity. That's how seriously they take this stuff. They see this as the ultimate big, fast passage maker. And is it? Let's find out. I'm Jack Haines, welcome to YachtBuyer. If you haven't done so already, now's a great time to subscribe to the YachtBuyer YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, and you'll be notified every time we upload a new sea trial like the one we're doing now. Right, let's go on with the test. We are testing this in slightly strange circumstances because we're on the river, near where the shipyard is in the Netherlands, and we've got to be careful with our speed. There we can do little bursts, but luckily this thing is very good at little bursts, and it canters up to 20 knots in really the blink of an eye, and very, very smoothly as well. There's no real obvious feeling of going up onto the plane, and then you have the interceptors as well. They're automatic, so with auto trim, if there's any bow rise, they're quickly jumping in to make sure the boat levels off, and then suddenly you're running at 22, 25 knots, and it's almost tabletop flat. You've got this wonderful view forward. I'm centrally located, and the all-round view is excellent, and it is oh so quiet. They make a big deal about refinement, and it's certainly living up to the billing. But actually the performance is really strong. It's a clenched fist inside a silk glove, this thing. They don't scream about performance, but even this one, the smaller engines, will top out at 35 knots. And as I said in the intro, 40 knots with the bigger engines. So it will really travel. Keep in mind, this is a 79-foot boat, but it is that ability to cruise fast and quietly where it really stands out. And you've got good range as well. At 26 knots, you'll cover over 500 nautical miles. Really good sort of cruising distance given the speed you're traveling at. And if you drop that down to close to displacement speed, you're getting well over 1,000 nautical miles. So you've got plenty of flexibility when it comes to the performance. And it's just a very easy boat to drive and live with, especially giving it size. It doesn't feel like an 80-footer from up here at the helm. Yes, you're a long way forward. If I look back, there's a lot of boat stretching out behind me, but up here it feels contained and manageable. This really comfortable stid seat that is fully adjustable. It goes up and down and in and out at the touch of a button, so I can get nice and close to the dash. Everything is close to me and really well presented. Triple 19-inch Garmin MFDs, so I've got my mix of nav and engine data, and there's just some buttons down here for the stuff you're going to be using regularly, but it's things like putting the lighting in groups down here, so you've got anchor, navigation, docking. Depending on what you're doing, it's really easy to hit those buttons and get the lights on that you want. And it's incredibly commanding position as well. The nice armrest, you can sit back and still reach the controls really easily. If you're going to be doing those fast, hard yards that they sort of designed this boat to be able to do, then doing it in this super comfortable position is absolutely lovely. I've got my navigator inside me. They are inside, so I'm going to have to move out the way if they want to get out. But it does put you on the centre line, which is one of those things that really makes you feel like you're in control of this thing. And it's really easy to see everything, and the all-round view is lovely. I have a couple of concerns about ventilation because you've only got the sunroof, which is actually behind me. There's no opening windows, so natural ventilation isn't great. Not an issue on a cold day in the Netherlands, but when you're in the south of France, you're going to be relying pretty heavily on the air conditioning and not necessarily your natural ventilation. But it's a very well arranged helm. You've got good little storage spots here. There's a big storage bin down there, cup holders, and you're in touch with everything as well. Of course, people are going to be chilling out behind you. You can still communicate with them. You can have a conversation. That's another nice thing about how quiet it is. It's really easy to talk at a normal level. You don't have to raise your voice to converse, considering we've got 4 engines back there, all 900 horsepower, 4 counter-rotating propellers churning through the water. It is absolutely whisper quiet in here. It's really, really impressive. But because of our environment, we're not going to be able to challenge the hull. It's very calm, we're on a river, and we can't really throw it around too much either because there's lots of commercial traffic. So unfortunately that's not something we can really put to the test. But just given the flair of the bow and the freeboard, and the reputation that I know Zeelander has with its smaller models, I think you'd probably be okay if you got to a big seaway. Sadly not something that we can test today, because we're in about 2.5 meters of water. But certainly that comfortable, quiet, easy, refined cruising, it is really, really impressive as regards that. And the other thing is slow speed control. This is a boat that an owner will probably run, though there is space for crew. We'll get onto that during the tour. But you have your IPS joystick here. You've got one in the cockpit as well. It's got DPS, so you can push a button and hold yourself still, knowing the boat's not going to move. So if you need to do fenders, move around the boat, move from station to station, you can do that really comfortably. So that all builds into being able to run what is a big boat as an owner without necessarily having to rely on crew. But we'll get into that more during the tour. So we're going to find a little spot along this river where we can pull over, where it's a bit quieter, and we'll get into the depths of the deck spaces and the interior.
We wanted to bring her out to the marina to show you what a good looking boat this is, but we can't anchor. So we're actually using the IPS's dynamic positioning system to hold us still, hence why you may well be picking the engines up on the microphone, but rather that than be crammed into the marina, because we want you to be able to see this in all its glory and do things like drop this platform down, such a key part of the Zeelander design on the smaller boats as well. And it is a critical area of style, this beautiful transom. But when it drops down, it's a really useful extra living space as well, an extra 6 feet of LOA, an extra 12 square meters to live on board. And it's not just a platform either. You've got these pop-up headrests, so you can lay down sun cushions here and create sun lounges down here. There's a ladder mounted in the side as well, so you can get in and out to the water really easy. There's some cleats at the end too, so you can tie the tender off here. And then when you don't want to use it, it all folds away. It just completes this gorgeous aft end of the boat. And something we're going to see throughout this design is some really high quality practical detailing. Here's a great example down here at the transom. It's not an easy boat to get on and off with the transom up, but they thought of that because this pops open like this at the touch of a button. I mean, look at those mechanisms, they're gorgeous in their own right. And then that gives you space to move the passerelle out, so you can get off at the stern without having to put the platform down. And you've also got boarding gates on either side, so when you're side two, it's very easy to get on and off. But that, what looks like a simple piece of design, is just so nicely executed, really easy to use. And then when it's down, it fits perfectly into this gorgeous top side. You're probably going to get quite tired of me mentioning the word detail, but there's so much of it here. Even things like this stainless, this ribbon that runs up around the back of this seating area here, the little Zs that we've got dotted all over the place, in footrests, in the cleats, in these handholds. It's everywhere you look, and it's flexible in terms of its layout as well. This is a very customizable boat. If you didn't want this seating, for example, you want to have more space to move around, you could remove that completely. But I like the way this area works. This is a big seating area for people to dine outside. This huge table, which is adjustable, it will drop down and rise up. And I like these seats as well. Lovely and sociable when the boat's stationary, but what a nice place to sit when it's going along as well, and see what 4 IPS engines are doing, churning up the wash behind you. And because the wheelhouse is raised, this should be nicely protected when the boat is moving along. And you've got this great mezzanine effect as well. Okay, it's not a flat floor. There's a few different levels to negotiate as you move through this cockpit, but then you come into this area where the bar connects to the interior. You've got your 4 bar stools mounted here. There's a very big canopy that pops out from overhead, extends right to that seating area. So you're using this boat in warmer climes, you've got good shade out here. And this is a real fixture of this deck. Really nice big bar space, very sociable. You've got a wonderful view here as the barman looking out over the water. You can just see the tip of the platform here. And you've got fridge and freezer and storage for glasses, sink over there. And crucially, a really nice big spot to arrange snacks or drinks and hold court with your guests. Over on this side, there's a little storage unit here, but also another docking station. So it's an IPS boat. You've got the joystick here. You've also got bow thruster control. Of course, you've got a joystick up at the helm, but if you're mooring stern too, this is a great position because you're raised up. as I've said, I've got a great view aft, but I can also crucially pop my head down the side of the boat, look right forward and do the slow speed manoeuvring from back here. It's a nice position to do it. Incidentally, this is what looks like wood. It's actually a very convincing composite finish. Looks like the real thing, but a lot easier to maintain and will be much harder wearing as well. Now, before we head inside and look at that gorgeous interior, let's go to the foredeck. Now, there's lots of freeboard on board this boat, but actually the bulwarks are relatively low, as you can see, sort of below knee height here. That said, they are topped by these wonderfully chunky rails all the way along, interspersed with cleats as well, but you also have this rail inside that runs all the way along pretty much, and where that breaks you have the rail overhead as well. So yes, these are set quite low, but you've always got something to grab onto as you're moving forward, and it's very safe and easy. There's no steps here apart from right at the back. Once you're on the side decks, it's just a nice gentle slope up towards the foredeck, and it is form and function very nicely balanced on board this boat. Yes, it looks gorgeous, but there's things like these huge storage voids. These are on both sides on gas rams, and this is the perfect place to store kit, to store your fenders. It's really deep and it goes a long way across. So for putting, you know, the ropes and all that, the mooring gear, it's really nice to have those on both sides that are very easy to get to. And then we have the living space, of course. So we've got this nice foredeck area. It's a split of seating space, quite a short sun pad, but still somewhere where you can stretch out, and it's nice and intimate this. You're not too far away from each other, and the table's big enough that if you did want to dine up here, you could. And you've got some cover as well. Of course, this is really very exposed, but you'll see these beautiful mounts, stainless steel mounts on either side. You plug in poles to those, and then you can mount a canopy overhead, so you have got some shade up here. And there's more great practical stuff as well. You've got great access to things like the anchor winch, two nice big cleats and fair leads, and winches for tightening the lines. You've got those at the stern as well, and a split anchor locker. So on the starboard side, pops up on a gas ram, and you've got all the anchor chain, and there's a ladder down into that as well. So if you do need to get down there, it's nice and easy, and that is separated from a separate hatch. There's no chance of the chain getting tangled up. With a shallower locker where they've got the hose, you've got the winch, but you've also got washdown in there as well. But it's nice that it's very separate and neatly integrated down into the deck. Now, this boat doesn't really have direct rivals, but if you do want to look at what sort of thing you could get for this type of size and budget, well, yachtbuyer.com is the place to do that. Head there, you can read the in-depth review and compare it to its rivals side by side. Right, let's head inside. Luckily, the heating's on in here, so I won't be needing that coat anymore. And yeah, it's a very inviting space in here, and it connects really nicely to the outside as well. This really gently curved glass window actually drops all the way down to this counter, so you have a great connection between the bar and the inside, and you're not short of TVs on board this boat. There's one that drops down from the ceiling. That's designed to face the bar stool, so if people are having a drink, they can watch TV from outside. And then there's another one in this unit here. There's a separate button for that, and that pops up and is designed to sort of serve this little seating area that you've got just inside the door. Opposite is the galley. Really nice long galley space this. There's plenty of countertop, and there's some nice detailing even in this little area. I like that you've got somewhere specific to put the ensign. That is a beautiful piece of design and engineering quality that's gone into this, not only the stuff itself, but the way it stores in these little pins. That's really nice. The sockets are discreetly hidden away in the top of the counter as well. That's very nice. And this is your bin, so you've got access through the top, but also you can empty it easily by opening this cupboard. Really nice long swathe of countertop with the sink integrated very nicely in here, and then you've got a dishwasher underneath. This is all storage around here, and this is the fridge. Not a huge amount of cooling space for a 79-footer, but you have also got a wine fridge there, and don't forget you've got more cooling space out at the bar and also in the crew space that we're going to look at in a moment. And like outside, this area is incredibly flexible. There is an option, for example, to have the galley over here and have an island that you can walk around, so you can walk through to this seating area. So if you don't want the galley all arranged on one side, you could have that version. Incredibly flexible. But this leaves you with this sort of separate dining area, but it's also nice to have an area that isn't up against the table. So if you want to relax and stretch out, you're not always sitting there with a table in front of you. But this is a good internal dining space. Like outside, this table is adjustable. We'll go up and down at the touch of a button, and this is actually underneath the sunroof. So the sunroof doesn't really serve the helm station,
But if you want to eat inside but still have a view of the sky, then you can open that up, and that's quite a nice effect. And that's the only natural ventilation you've got in here, really. There are no opening windows, there's nothing opening forward either. So in terms of natural ventilation, you're relying pretty heavily on that sunroof. We've been through the helm, but here's a touch that I didn't mention on the water, which is that you can put a partition up here. Almost like having a chauffeured car. If the crew are driving, you want a bit of privacy, then you can just put this up and have that in place if you want to. But obviously nice that it's not there all the time, so you can drop it down and have this really lovely open area. The glass area is remarkable. It's lovely and bright in here. Despite the fact that's a solid sunroof, it's not a glass sunroof obviously, you've still got plenty of natural light. And here's some other nice little details. You've got space for your crockery and everything like that. You've even got space for your individual bits of cutlery, all held in place there inside their felt fiddle so they won't rattle when you're going along. This thing is so quiet, they've got to work to make sure things like crockery, glassware isn't rattling, because you'd hear it so easily, so they've put a lot of work into that. Right, let's head downstairs and have a look at the cabins. At the bottom of the stairs on the lower deck, the first thing you have is a day ahead. That's in a good position, and I love this walkway that links the owner's cabin amidships to the crew space right forward. We're going to finish up there later on, but let's start with the guest cabins. There were two on board. This is the port side one with the queen size double bed. You can see how nice and bright it is in here. The big hull windows line up here, so you get plenty of natural light pouring in. And yes, you've only got a walkway down one side, but you have got lovely views from your bed there out over the river. Very, very nice indeed. We've got storage behind the door, big hang locker there. There's a TV behind the door into the cabin, and it's got a private bathroom. On the opposite side, you have a slightly bigger cabin, slightly bigger footprint, bigger walkway and a bigger bathroom, as we'll see in a moment. Again, natural light is great from these big hull windows, though you have got the intrusion of the staircase in this cabin, so the person on this side isn't going to be able to sit up in bed very easily. Not so much of an issue. On that side, again, they have private AV. There's TV behind the door here. Their storage is behind this door, and then the bathroom is a lovely size. Nice sweep of counter. Storage is really good all around the head level, and again you've got hull window. It's nice that we can see the reeds passing by as we trickle up the river here, and this has got a really nice separate shower cubicle with a rain shower head overhead as well. Let's continue to the owner's cabin. Here we are then, the owner's cabin, and they've really made the most of the beam here. It's 22 foot wide, this boat, and this stretches the full width of it, and I like the way that they've integrated the bathroom into the beam. So you can separate this off from the cabin with these doors. They're on a cable, so you can just use one to close both, and that really nicely arranges this sink unit right underneath the windows, and also means it's very bright. You know, you're not blocking off this area. You can use it and get the natural light, but you've got privacy when you want to go to the toilet, and there's a separate shower cubicle as well. And this is a really good size, good space in here, and you've got the rain shower head overhead. You've got the wand as well. You've even got a little bench so you can sit down while you're having a wash and just think about what a lovely time you're having on board your Zeelander 8. And you'll be reminded you're on a Zeelander because these little Zs pop out everywhere, even down here in the shower. On the other side of the cabin, this is where all the storage lives, and I love that this wooden detailing follows us in here as well. You see it through the passageway, and it runs all the way through to this area. There's drawer storage underneath what is a king-size bed in this cabin. We've got big lockers on either side, on there, on there. I mustn't forget as well, a TV drops down from the deck head as well, so you can sit and watch TV in bed. And this is a nice bureau. It doubles up as a desk as well. You can put your jewelry in there, do your makeup, but also what a nice place to sit and open the laptop and have a view out over the water while you're doing it. It's a lovely space. Now let's finish off on this deck with the crew space forward. Now you know you're entering the crew space because the flooring changes to a very attractive synthetic teak. There's two crew cabins on this version. There's a bunk with a private bathroom on that side, and then here we have a single cabin with a nice single berth, plenty of space over the top, storage over there, good hull window and storage behind, plus a good separate, well I was going to say wet room, but actually there is a solid partition in there, so you can shower in there without getting it wet, but that is a nice space. And then forward there's a mess area. I tell you what, this came as a pretty pleasant surprise. I was not expecting to have a mess like this on a boat like this, and it's an interesting question with this boat. It's, as I said when I was driving it, feels manageable for its size, but it's still a big boat. It's knocking on the door of 80 feet, and it's not necessarily running it, it's maintaining it. You know, it's a lot to look after as the owner. So yes, you may want crew, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it lends itself to being a crewed boat necessarily. However, the space down here is remarkably good. You've got your little mess here, TV up there, they've got a sink and some cooling space down here. There isn't much storage for groceries and pots and pans, so it feels like the crew will have to be sharing the owner's space up in the galley, but that's going to be the way this type of boat works. I imagine it's going to be a pretty close relationship between owner and crew. Or alternatively, this is a really big space. If you wanted to convert this into a big VIP cabin, you could do that. I've talked in this video about how flexible they are with the layouts, and that's something you could do. But if you do have to have crew, this is a much better space than I think you might imagine. The other nice thing they've got is overhead, because obviously we got to this through the interior. There is a crew ladder. How cool is that? So they have an escape hatch. I won't put it all the way down, but obviously this comes right down, and that's up to the foredeck, meaning they could leave this open day to day when the boat's stationary, so they can get up and down without having to come through the boat. Obviously, pretty important thing to have in an emergency as well, but typical Zeelander, very nicely put together and well thought out. And that's not the end of the fun machinery spaces, because there's a bit of a surprise in store in the tender garage. So let's head there. We're back in the marina now, so we can look at the oily bits, the tender garage and the engine room. Now there's quick access to the tender garage through this hatch here, and you can get to the engine room through the hatch as well. But if you want really good access, the entire deck hatch aft lifts up, and that gives you very, very clear access down to look at all 4 of those IPS motors. You might think because there are 4 engines, it's going to feel cramped in here. Well, it absolutely does not. Even with this hatch shut, you'd still have plenty of headroom. And with it open, not only is headroom even better, but you've got ventilation and, importantly, lots of natural light, although these strip lights are really handy as well. It's easy to get around all the engines. The outboard ones, getting to the outboard sides of them is a bit tricky, but generally, day-to-day service checks are very easy. And the other machinery is easy to check as well. We've got 2 Seakeepers here in the middle. Again, they're easy to get to. A pair of 21 kilowatt generators as well. Again, they are not tucked in, tucked away. They are easy to inspect and easy to work on if you need to. Pod access is really good. Of course, you've got 4 of those as well, so you want to be able to check on them easily, and you can, because there's no tender garage overhead. You haven't got that gobbling up space in here, because the tender garage is through that bulkhead. There's a hatch here, and it loads on, and this is a very super yacht touch, through a side loading door. So there's a roller system. You can pull the tender in to the side of the boat. Really, really cool touch, and just means everything is all tucked away. You don't want to be carrying a tender on the back of this thing, maintaining those lines, so that's a really nice solution. It's a very impressive engineering space. Zeelander is pretty tight-lipped about pricing given the bespoke nature of the product. The 8 will likely set you back around €8 million excluding VAT before you add any extras and explore the customization options. And there is a danger that one man's vision will only appeal to one man, but have a look at this thing and tell me it doesn't appeal. It's outrageously beautiful. It's stop what you're doing and stare beautiful. The beauty is more than skin deep though. It's a boat engineered with practicality in mind, one that has been designed and refined by people who are clearly experienced boaters. If there is a potential issue here, it's how the 8 falls into the gap between being owner-run and crewed. But if you can resolve that, this is a boat steeped in that intangible but also valuable thing: soul.
Thank you for watching that Sea Trial review of the Zeelander 8. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give the video a like if you did. If you want to watch something else that's 80 feet long, big, fast and sexy, well, how about the Princess S80? I'll put that Sea Trial up here for you. If you'd like to subscribe to YachtBuyer channel, you can do that by clicking up here. Thanks again for watching. I'm Jack Haines. This is YachtBuyer.